Hello students, welcome to the next video on the chapter Nervous System in Humans for class 8. So let us begin. If you have seen the previous video, children, you know now the structure of the motor neuron and how it is connected. There is a gap between them. You remember what we call it? Yes, it's called the synapse and the different types of nerves. Today we are going to delve into little more detail of the nervous system in humans. Now, this nervous system that you are going to study is divided into three parts: the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system. And for your syllabus in class 8, we will be particularly dealing with the central nervous system. Now, I'll just give you a small overview of all these three systems. The central nervous system mostly consists of the brain and the spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system, it consists of the nerves which are passing to and from the central nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system consists of a pair of chains of, you can say a mass of nerve cells which control the various vital functions of the body, like the heartbeat, the respiratory system, etc. So, as I told you that in your portion, the main focus is on the central nervous system. Now, the central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So, we will be discussing in detail about the brain and the spinal cord. Now, it is the control center for all the body functions, because you know that brain is a control center, right? It is controlling most of the activities that happen in your body, and also with the help of the spinal cord. It is responsible to process the information, like when you see someone or you get some smell, you're able to understand things, right? Every sensation, like now it's becoming colder these days, so you are able to sense it, or when you touch a hot object and such sensations. Also, the thought a human body experiences, everything is coming under the central nervous system. Now, first part of the central nervous system, as I told you, is the brain. So you can see a diagram here where actually the brain is divided into the three main parts. Now, what is the brain? It is the main control, you can say main control center of the nervous system. And it is very developed in the humans, okay children, and it is inside the brain box or the skull. We say that it is situated in the cranium of the skull, and in an adult this brain weighs around 1200 gram to 1400 gram, and about 2% of the total body weight is of the brain. Now, what does the brain control? It controls your thinking, feeling, movement, sensations, right? And the brain is actually enveloped by a three-layered membrane called the meninges. Here I have not shown you in the diagram, but there is a membrane called the meninges. The membranes also have a fluid that is called the cerebrospinal fluid. This cerebrospinal fluid nourishes the brain, okay? It protects the brain from any kind of a shock. It helps by absorbing this shock. The brain is divided into the three parts, as you can see in the diagram. The bigger part is the cerebrum. Now, the cerebrum is mostly always the uppermost, largest part of your brain, the most prominent part of your brain. It fills most of the skull area. It is also highly convoluted, you can see. You can see a lot of lines here, right? These lines actually are known as the ridges and grooves. So like they are up and down, they folded in a way, forming the ridges and grooves. They increase the surface area for accommodating more of the nerve cells. So cerebrum is developed, actually you can say it's divided into two parts. Cerebrum is divided into two parts, that is the right and the left cerebral hemispheres, with a deep furrow in between. And what is the main role of cerebrum? It is controlling most of your mental activities like thinking, reasoning. It is where the main center of memory and intelligence, and all the perceptions of pain, temperature, sight is actually in the cerebrum. Then comes the next part, as you can see, the cerebellum. It is a small egg-shaped lobe-like structure at the base of the cerebrum. You can see it's in the base part of the cerebrum, the cerebellum. And it does not have much convolutions, but it has many furrows, some deep line-like structures. And it is also helping in muscular coordination and balance of the body. So, do you know, children, what happens when someone drinks a lot of alcohol and they are affected because of that alcohol? They're not able to maintain their balance. It is because the cerebellum is getting affected by the alcohol, and an alcoholic person, he is unable to coordinate his muscular movements properly. So they can't walk straight, they keep falling here and there, and such things happen. And lastly, we have the medulla oblongata, or the oblongata, as you want, you can pronounce it. This part, it's a stem. It's the lowermost part of the brain, located at the base of the skull, and it is like the stem of the brain. It emerges from the base of the brain, as you can see in the diagram, and it is continued as the spinal cord in the posterior region. Posterior is the back part, okay, and it controls what? Breathing, heartbeat, coughing, sneezing. All the involuntary functions of your body is actually controlled by the medulla oblongata. So if you see this colored diagram, it is actually showing some parts of the brain which are responsible for different sensations and different controls. Like, you can say that the front part of the brain, it is actually for the consciousness, memory. If you see this diagram also, you can understand that, see, this part of the brain is controlling the speech and language, one part is controlling the smell, one part is controlling the voluntary activity, that what you want to do, voluntary, and involuntary means something that is happening automatically, and then the balance and coordination by the cerebellum, and so on. Now next we go to the other important part of the central nervous system, that's the spinal cord, right? At the back you all have a spinal cord which looks like this. It's not a very straight structure, it's a little curvy structure. And now the spinal cord, it's a continuation of the medulla oblongata of the brain, as I told you. It is like a cord that emerges from the hole of the skull. So there's a hole in your skull from where this medulla oblongata is coming, and then it's joining the spinal cord. Like the brain, the spinal cord is also protected by the meninges with the cerebrospinal fluid. And there is a cross section of the spinal cord which shows two similar halves fused together to form a small canal. Can you see? There are two parts and joined, and there is a central canal here. It contains the cerebrospinal fluid. This central canal is surrounded by a H-shaped structure. If you see the structure, it looks like a butterfly, or you can say it looks like a H-shaped area. This H-shaped area is actually consisting of the gray matter. You can see it's written here, gray matter. And what is this gray matter consisting of? It is consisting of the cell bodies of the neuron. You have read the structure, so now you should know which is the cell body or the cyton of the neuron, right? That part is in the gray area. And the outer part is called white matter. And what does it consist of? It consists of the nerve fibers, the axon, you can say. And what is the function of as you can see in the structure, you can see the sensory neuron. Do you remember, children? The sensory neuron, which is carrying the information from the sense organs, right? And then information is coming to the spinal cord, and then it is going through the motor neuron to different parts to take up required action, right? So what is the function of the spinal cord? It coordinates the reflexes below the neck. Mostly all the things that happen below your neck is mostly coordinated by the spinal cord. It conducts the sensory impulses from the skin and muscles to the brain, and it conducts the motor responses from the brain to the muscles of the trunk and the limbs. Okay, children, so today we have discussed the main part, that is the central nervous system according to your class 8 syllabus. The two main parts, the brain and the spinal cord. If you have understood and liked the video, please don't forget to comment on it. And thank you for watching.